last episode we had some rookie failures, but we should be getting back on track with mounting the engine and getting that measurement we need for the tail shaft. We pulled the car out from under the hoist and it was an absolute mission to get it rolling, so we decided to pivot a little bit and sort out the front suspension. We managed to get the front suspension together fairly quickly, however the tie rods needed to be cut because the wheels were doing those ones. Then we took the engine out, I cut the box tube off the mounts and we put the bushes on, and then we started to slide it back into the engine bay. Very quickly though, again, we realized that something just wasn't right. It wasn't able to locate and it was really hard to move around. We saw that it was catching on the bell housing, so we figured that it was a clearance issue with the transmission tunnel, so we beat the absolute crap out of it and managed to get a lot more clearance, but then it was like it was stuck on something. We took the engine out 5 or 6 times trying to find what it was getting stuck on. During one of these times I actually found a clutch upstairs, so we started putting that together, but we're missing a spigot bearing, so that's another thing for me to order. But what we found in the engine bay is that it was actually hitting the front subframe. So we thought through a few different options on how we could fix this problem. One is obviously get a different sump, but we knew that this engine had worked in my old car. We thought about moving the engine mounts around the other way, but we pulled them off and they were actually labelled to what side they needed to go and how they needed to be aligned, so that didn't work. But where we landed was that we would notch the subframe. So I grabbed the angle grinder out and I cut a little piece out of the subframe where the sump was hitting, I flipped it upside down and I welded it back in. And then finally, we had the engine mounted. We bolted it up just to make sure that it was located correctly. We put the transmission brace underneath the transmission. We put the diff in, however, we realized that we didn't have any bolts to do that, but I managed to rummage around and find some, which means we can now get our tail shift measurement. So now that we have that, it is time to buy some bolts. Now, I've been dealing with Boltmasters Marine for the last few weeks while I've been ordering bits and bobs, and they have been extraordinarily helpful at saving me from myself. So after a discussion around what we're doing with all these bolts that I'm ordering, they've come on board as a partner for the build series. So you need some fasteners, go hit up Boltmasters. So a quick budget update. We are at 7,500 out of 10k. We do not have an exhaust system, we do not have a fuel system, we do not have any electrical devices in the car. So I'm getting a little bit concerned at this point. Lucky we found that clutch and flywheel, otherwise I was going to be in a lot of trouble. What did we learn today? We learned that nothing ever bolts simply up to a race car. If you need to cut it, cut it. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get the job done. So what's next? I need to order a tail shaft. I need to map out a fuel and power steering system. I'll try and do all the plumbing at once. Once I have all the different plumbing parts, we'll probably need to fab up some mounts and work out where we're going to put things. We also need to work out what we're going to do about these headers and how we can get them to clear the steering column, or whether I just need to buy another set of headers and start again. If you're enjoying the chaos, guys, hit like, subscribe, and in the comments tell me what you would do differently. See you next time.